I'm Jimmy Lewis, and this is the one beer review of the GasGas EX350F. So this is, well, it's a brand new bike. KTM acquired GasGas. They basically are using their platform approach. They took what was their 350 XCF, gave it some nice new red plastic. They did all the XCF things from the SX line, which is added the O-ring chain, the 18-inch rear wheel. It has the kickstand. This is designed to be an off-road race bike. And the GasGas, what makes this a little bit different is, of course, the color, the name. And they've done some things to reduce the price a little bit. So Matt, what's the price?
It's at $9,999.
And that's about $700 less than the comparable KTM.
Mm-hmm.
So, quote, the price reduction stuff is, number one, probably the most obvious is a cast triple clamp. It's not the machine built piece that's on some of the other bikes. The other thing is it has on the exhaust system, it's a straight through exhaust. It doesn't have the plenum chamber inside of it. And then the wheels are supposedly a cost cutting feature. They're silver rims. They don't have any markings on it, but we're told they're made by Excel. So that is where they're getting the slightly lower price out of. And we'll just move right into where this bike is. It changes, it doesn't have any, it's an all new bike, and we're gonna get right into the power. So how was that for you?
It was good. It's typical 350. It was kind of like a dream 250, almost like a Works 250. It was pretty good.
It's like somebody. People say, "What's a 350?" It's not a 450. It doesn't feel anything like a 450.
No,
it's not chuggy. It's kind of a revvy style motor.
Yeah.
But it just has this torque that 250s don't have, and we'll get into the torque a little bit later. But it's when you rev it and you get it screaming, it's got all the beans it needs.
Right, definitely.
And then, it's a 6-speed transmission. I think the transmission's a little bit of a close ratio, more on the racing side of things. And the power band just has kind of two distinct characters. So, and maybe you can describe a little bit, because we sort of went on a ride where we did some racing speed stuff, and then we did some trail riding speed stuff.
Yeah. When we were doing the trail riding speed stuff, I found that I actually enjoyed riding this bike more in the slow range, the low range. Kind of keeping the RPMs a little low, not really getting on it like a race bike, like you would expect a race bike to. Jimmy, on the other hand, though, you like riding a little bit more on the.
I like to rev the bike.
Yeah.
This bike, it goes, and I don't think it has the same torque that like the KTM's do, and I really specifically attribute it to the exhaust system.
Yeah.
It's like the throttle response and stuff, and just the way it responds. And we also have a little bit of cold starting. It doesn't start as easily as I remember the KTM's starting. It starts up, but it just you got to warm it up. And it's been cold here. That's why I'm wearing a jacket.
Yeah. I took one for the team without jacket.
So anyhow, it's sort of got this two-style power band. Where there's very little, if any, flywheel weight. It's prone to stalling, especially if it's zero throttle and there's no compression braking. Mm-hmm. So it's like a two-stroke in a lot of ways, where you want to get on the gas and let it sing, and it has a long power band. You don't have to shift it that much. The bike just plain goes
like a typical 350, right?
Yeah. Hydraulic clutch was great. Shifting was great. Like I said, transmission ratios, maybe overall range. It's got a nice 6-speed in there, but like maybe first is a little bit tall. Not as bad as a motocross bike by any means. 6, it feels like it would pull a lot taller gearing.
Yeah.
And
I definitely felt what you were talking about with the first gear, though. It was definitely tall.
Yeah, you want to use the clutch. And then so there's, like I said, a little bit prone to stalling. And if the throttle is not turned on, there's just not a ton of torque in this motor.
No.
And so it's sort of like you want to be going, you want to be revving.
Mm-hmm.
If you move on to the suspension side of the things, its setup is pretty. I would say it's really good for what it's designed to do, which is be a off-road race bike.
Yeah.
When you start going trail riding, the speeds, then the fork starts being a little bit harsh.
Yeah.
The back kind of matches it, but not as bad. And this has the WP Exact AER fork, which is air fork, which it's one of the best air forks I've ridden. And it's sensitive. And the good thing about it is you can change the spring rate very quickly, and right away, it was set at 9.8. Ours is actually at 10, and we dropped it down to 9 bar. And it for the trail riding stuff, it made it way better.
Yeah.
all of a sudden it was, supple and compliant where it needed to be. Maybe using a little bit too much stroke, but just that little bit of a change, and the fact that you can change that is really good. I think that the fork can use a little bit more time on it, and I'm pretty sure we can dial it in a little bit better with clickers and kind of come to a happy setting. But I would say somewhere around 9.5 would be ideal for more like racing. We started picking up the speed. I wanted just a little bit more hold up.
Yeah.
On the when we started using the stroke, I'm willing to sacrifice the kind of the bump compliance there for a little bit of safety, and then less dive going into the turns,
especially in the sand.
Yeah, and then overall, what did you think on the suspension?
The suspension, yeah, just kind of like reflecting what you said. I was the one who actually asked if we could soften it a little bit because I'm not as fast. But
well, it has nothing to do with fast. It's just how different people hit bumps differently.
Yeah.
So I was noticing the same thing, and I was glad you said it. I'm like, yeah, I'll take a little bit of air out, and we had our air pump, and we tuned it up.
Yeah.
Then, so kind of this starts moving over into the handling side of things. And this bike, you want to talk about a light feeling bike with a lot of power. That's where this 350 package is really good. Even when it starts revving up, it handles very light. You can still steer it through the foot pegs. The handlebars have a real light feel into them. KTM is generally pretty stable if you have it set up properly. So the GasGas is the same. It's the kind of bike that kind of goes where you wish it. It really,
right.
And the 350 even more so. So it's super narrow. It's funny because the gas tank actually looks like it bulges, but I never
noticed that.
Never noticed it. There's good sweep through in the plastic. The shape of the plastic is really good, and you thought you were on a Honda.
Yeah. I said I felt like I was riding like Ken Roxon.
Right, that means he's on a Honda.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
It just, the red colored has a little bit of an effect, and I think for the most part we really liked it. And in being a 350, and since you're revving it a lot, there's one thing that we noticed on this bike, and we actually tested it back to back with a KTM, although it was a 125XC, was the difference you're feeling with the cast triple clamps. And it's not like, I didn't notice any vagueness in handling or a change in anything other than I got a little bit more vibration and a little bit of more sting through the bars. These bars are solid mounted where the KTM's machined triple clamps are rubber mounted.
Yeah.
And I think you do notice that. So
definitely.
Is it enough to turn me off? No. Do I think it's a performance disadvantage? No. You just notice a little bit more vibration. But other than that, I didn't notice anything that was awkward on this bike.
Yeah, the vibration, like it wasn't like your arms were ringing when you got off the bike either. It wasn't that bad.
I think you feel it, and it makes you feel the fork. That's why we were kind of drawn to the feeling of the fork a little bit and wanted to tune it. So what do you think about the GasGas overall?
I like it. I've always been a big fan of 350s. One of my favorite four strokes of all time was the XCF 350 we had a few years ago. So this one reminded me a lot of that, and it was fun. It took me a little time to figure out how to ride it and playing with the suspension, but I think I'll like it a little bit more if you had more time.
That's the thing about this. It's a 350. That's one of the biggest things that you're going to get. If you haven't ridden a 350, I really suggest trying it because it's going to blow your mind. They're really good bikes. I feel like this is as good as a KTM. It doesn't have any limits. There's nothing that you're going to buy. There's nothing you're going to get in this bike that you don't. That's going to hold you back. It's a good bike.
Yeah.
So the issues that we have with it are a little bit of vibration, a little bit of stalling, a little bit of cold start. I feel like the bike could use some hand guards. It could use a skid plate, and then you can also put the map switch on it. So it's an accessory part that'll allow you to access the two different maps inside of the ignition, which is always a benefit, I think.
Yeah, definitely having more customability.
And overall, I think if this were my bike, I would do the handguards as skid plate. I would change the exhaust system. I think that there's some power or drivability that would come around with that, and call it good. I mean, we haven't had to tighten the spokes anymore on the wheels.
No.
There's nothing on this bike that's saying that it's a more affordable KTM.
It's just a solid bike.
Yeah, it's a GasGas, which is what they want us to say. They don't want us to compare it to the KTM. So I think it's awesome. We have another option in there, and we will be putting a lot more miles on this. So if you're curious about this bike, check out www.dirtbiketest.com and follow us on all the social media platforms. So for Matt Mattoon, this is Jimmy Lewis. We will see you out in the trail. Cheers.
See ya.